endearingly laughing at me because I was like jumping up and down, clapping. I was like, "This is so cool! I've never gotten to do this before." And I've been making films, whether professionally or not, for like 10 years now, and I'm still like jumping up and down in excitement at getting to do a new thing. And I hope that my PA saw that and was like, "Wow, he really loves his craft. This is really cool. I want to keep doing this." Hi, I'm Benjamin Kapit. I am the creator, writer, director, star of The Sunrise House and a couple other things here and there. You can find me at Benjamin Kapit Official on Instagram and TikTok, and you are watching and listening to Two Geeks Talking.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Two Geeks Talking is an entertainment industry interview show where we interview the creative people from the comic, film, TV, movie, and video game industries. And of course, I'm your host, Kurt Sasso. We're joined today by a filmmaker, director, producer, editor, etc., etc. He has many titles in the TV and film industry, but he is joining us today, first time on Two Geeks Talking, to talk about The Sunrise House. We're joined by the ever-talented Benjamin Kapit. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Kurt. Thank you for having me.
That's good having you on here. For those that don't know anything about yourself as a creative person, tell us who you are and what you're bringing to Two Geeks Talking today.
I am a filmmaker. I work behind the camera, in front of the camera, in front of a computer, kind of all over the place. I'm bringing my project, The Sunrise House, which we shot the first season in 2020, actually. And I just recently did a visual effects and color remaster of it. So I thought now's the perfect time to talk about it and have a fun discussion, a geeky discussion. The Sunrise House, it follows Isaac, whose grandfather has passed and has left him behind a lake house. And he goes up to this lake house with two of his friends to kind of clean it up, and finds instead that his grandfather has left him behind a little bit more than just the lake house. He's left him behind a little bit of a mess in relation to another world that has started leaking into this one. And Isaac has to figure out how to put a stop to this.
Okay, cryptic. I like it. No, of course not. I'm looking forward to this here. I'm fortunate enough to work in the TV and film industry as a DIT here, and I love seeing the behind the scenes process of this here. When you set out to make The Sunrise House, what question about yourself or your creativity were you unconsciously trying to answer?
So it was an interesting project for me to try and make because we shot it really at the height of COVID. It was a project that really came out of boredom for me. I started writing it in November of 2020. I had texted my friend Jack, who ended up being the director of photography on this and helping with a lot of the visual effects and production design. And I said, Jack, I'm losing my mind, cooped up in my house. We need to do something. And I think whether conscious or unconscious, the question that I was trying to answer is how how small of a crew and cast can I create something that is still powerful? I think there were seven of us in total that worked on this project. It's the first season is about an hour long. It's 6 episodes, and there were seven of us that lived up in this lake house for I think 10 or 11 days and shot this thing.
I always love the fact that you look at filmmakers and how they talk about themes and how they talk about the process and the focus and all those other fun keywords that directors seem to throw out there that, just create those buzzwords that you're used to seeing on Entertainment Tonight or whatever. Themes, though, are something that sometimes you can discover late, though, in your process here. For you, when did you realize what The Sunrise House was truly about beneath the plot mechanics?
So there's actually a fun story to that. I started writing it as a short film. I was like, I'm gonna write a short film. We're gonna go up to the lake house. We're gonna shoot it. It's gonna be like 10 minutes. We're gonna put like really rehearse it and go hard on each scene and spend a ton of time lighting everything. And then I named it The Sunrise House. And I was like, okay, this has to be a sci-fi show. Oops. And it took me not as long as I think it would because before I named it The Sunrise House and before it became something sci-fi, I had written the first couple scenes. And in it, Isaac talks about how he's writing a eulogy for his grandfather. And to me, it's really it's really been about loss since the beginning. It's been about the effect that losing someone you love can have on a person. I mean, that was even before it became a sci-fi show. I'll, talk about these first couple scenes. Isaac is staring out at the water at the lake, and then he comes inside and he's talking to his friend Julia, and she's asking about his grandfather and why he left the house to Isaac. And you can feel Isaac's difficulty in talking about this. And then he wakes up a little bit later and there's a giant floating red orb. And that's where the sci-fi element came in. I was very lucky to really feel this theme before I wrote much of it. That I was lucky to discover this in the writing before it even became what it ended up being.
Working with a tight crew, working with actors, very small crew. Like, I mean, that's like guerrilla style in itself, because everyone's pulling a role or two or three. How many hats did you have to wear, and were they comfortable in terms of this entire process?
I mean, the main ones that I wore on set. So I played Isaac. I was the director and the producer. I would guess kind of the first AD. In post production, I worked as a colorist and helped a little bit with the editing here and there. I did a bunch of the visual effects and the music and the sound design, and of course I wrote it. But on set, it was really only those main like four. I come from a background of doing most stuff myself because when I started when I was like 15, I didn't really have anyone else, and I was so lucky to work with such an amazingly supportive and fun crew that it all felt really natural. I mean, if I had picked the wrong people, it would have been an absolute disaster and I would have been like crying. But they were so collaborative and supportive of me and of this project. I mean, especially like Jack, my director of photography, who I couldn't direct and be in front of the camera if it weren't for my immense amount of trust in him as a creative and as a filmmaker. I wore a number of hats, but thanks to my crew, it was fairly easy.
Did you find an unexpected skill or a personal habit that helped you finishing seasons one, and we'll get into season two in a little bit?
I don't know that I did. I think that my skills have obviously grown a lot through this process, but I don't know that specifically this show unlocked anything, any other project that I've worked on didn't. I think it's just been, it's been like building a muscle. I've just been working on it over time, and the more effort I put into it, the better it gets.
Talk about the tech side of things, because I always love what equipment you had, because obviously being geeks we have to like spout about our equipment here.
Oh yeah.
What were you shooting on? What was your kit basically for cameras, lights, sound, all that other fun stuff?
So not that impressive, actually. We shot season one on a mix of cameras. The any drone shot you see is on the original Mavic Pro. And then for our cameras, we had I think it was the Blackmagic 2.5K cinema camera and the original Micro Studio, or not Micro Studio, Micro Cinema, both with speed booster, thankfully. And then our lenses, we were just shooting on Rokinons. Like it was very bare bones. I mean, Jack and I were 19 and 20 respectively at the time we shot this, so we didn't have much. Season two was shot on slightly nicer camera, but the same lenses. And now, thankfully, we've upgraded to some nicer kit. But we really shot that with whatever we could scrounge together. We had basically no lighting. We really utilized the natural light that was up there. I don't even remember what audio recorder we used. We shot with a nice mic. We had the Rode NTG3, I think it was. No, I mean it was really reliant on natural light, reliant on the fog machine, really added to it, and reliant on the actors to really fill up the story, fill up the frame. I mean, it was nice we could shoot in raw, but it's not like we had like a Red or an Ari out there.
Right. I mean, would that have really added other than the beautiful color depth that say the NRA has or whatever?
I mean, it probably would have slowed us down, honestly,
Yeah, the manuals.
working with something so complicated.
Don't drop it. It's a $40,000 camera,
It would literally.
and we're by water. Oh no.
Yeah. Oh my God. I actually, just real quick tangent, I actually did walk into the lake at one point.
Talk about your crew and your cast. How did you come together with your crew? How did you find them? Have you previously worked with them? Like, what did they bring to season one and season two that just made it all that better?
Yeah, so the cast was brand new. I had never worked with them. I found them, I think, through like a Facebook post. Perry, who played, not to be confused with Perry the Platypus, but Perry, who played Julia, and Diego, who played Elliot. They were both very excited to come onto this. They were also kind of like, I don't want to say like they were my only two choices, but they were like my only two choices because they were the only people who responded because we were in the middle of a pandemic. But, we all took safety precautions. We were very careful. No one got COVID on set, which was very lucky, but they were new. And it was a little nerve wracking for me because I'm very used to working with actors that I have seen on other projects that I really know that I can trust when I bring them into such a large role. And for me, it was kind of taking a chance on them. But I think that for the most part, it worked out. I think that they both had fun on it. My crew, I had worked with some of them before. I had known all of them prior to shooting, but I had like been on proper sets with some of them before. But Jack, my DP, who I've mentioned probably like 20 million times now, he and I have had been working together for 3 or 4 years. We're now coming up on a decade. I think it was because of him that I was really able to put this together. But the whole crew, they came on with this like excitement and this support of me and of the project and of each other. The whole cast and crew. We really kind of became like a little family while we were up there. Yeah, no, it was just nice to know that they weren't gonna let me down and that they cared about the project.
The visual effects you mentioned, obviously, and I've seen some of your stills. Talk about that because you're either staring at a tennis ball or it was just your imagination. Like, what were you using in that respect, and how, as an actor, were you able to visualize? Well, being the writer, I think you could visualize it, but everyone else that had to interact with that space, what did they have to work with?
Yeah, so the main visual effects thing that people were imagining was this red orb that shows up. There are like a couple times that people have to like see it, so to speak, where those people aren't me. And lucky for me, I know what I want it to look like. And it's a lot easier for me. Jack and I had developed a kind of like a previs version of it that we could show the other actors like this is what you're seeing, and then we would line up. If we're looking at it, I don't think we ever see it outside, so it's always inside. So we'd pick a point on the wall and be like, look there, so that our eye line is the same. Luckily, the actors never really had to interact with it, like they never had to reach out and touch it or anything. It would just kind of float there menacingly. The other thing that we did that I think was helpful, at least for some of the shots, is we developed this like light pattern that the orb might have given off because it's part solid and part not. The way that it moves is very strange, and so like the light that it gives off shifts. So we developed this kind of like shifting red and white glowy pattern, and we projected it onto myself and the other actor. Like we had a projector there, and we projected it onto us. And that, I think, at least for me, it helped. Like I could feel the heat coming off of the projector. It helped me feel like there was actually something there. And then pretty much all of the other visual effects that were involved were really just me. There's a scene at the end. I I said that I played Isaac. I actually play a different character in it too. I play the villain who is like a reflection of Isaac. He showed up in the third episode, and he was meant to just be like a one-off little thing, and then he kept coming back in the writing, and so he became the main villain. But there are scenes where he and I are interacting. I say he and I as though it's not just me. There are scenes where I'm interacting with myself, and there's a lot of visual effects there, and we're manipulating energy and stuff like that, and all of that because I was one of the primary visual effects artists on this show. I was able to be like, okay, I know exactly what this is going to look like. So it becomes very easy for me to do. And with the other actors, I just sat them down. I was like, okay, this is what you're seeing. This is, talk me through how you think your character might react to this. And we had a discussion about it. And I showed them what it would probably look like or end up looking like and kind of the size of it. And then they did a phenomenal job reacting to it.
I mean, that takes a lot of imagination. That takes a lot of communication, trust. Obviously, when it comes to actors here, did they bring any concepts or ideas that either added to the script or gave you a different viewpoint as to the process as you were working with it in terms of storytelling?
I mean, I think any actor is going to bring that in a little bit. They're going to bring in a side of the character that you didn't necessarily expect to be there. When I write all of my characters, they have a different voice, but of course they are pieces of me. It's an honor for me to get to give those pieces to someone else to play around with. And specifically Perry, who an incredibly talented actor. Diego, who played Elliot, this was his first project that he'd worked on. But Perry, I mean, she went to school for it. She was trained, and I feel like the discussions that she and I had about her character and about my character and just the way that we interacted brought a depth to Julia that I couldn't have had in the writing. I'm incredibly grateful for the expertise and also the perspective that she brought to the show, because she's coming into it not only as like a trained actor but also as an English major, and so her understanding of the text and the discussions that we had. I mean, we would, before scenes, while Jack was setting up, we would sit there for like 30 minutes just talking through what's going on in this show and what could this line mean, and when these characters do this action, why, and like what's going through their heads, or just like building out this world, this reflection of our world that exists in this, talking about why is it there, why does Julia think it's there, what are all of these characters uncovering. And the ideas that she brought to it really, I think, expanded the scope of the world in my head. And while there won't end up being a third season, just for we've all kind of moved on to other projects, and we're all very busy, and I have other things I need to do. There is a third season written, and the idea for it exists because of Perry, actually, and because of a discussion that I had with her about where the story might go next. I was like, if I'm going to do something after the second season, maybe this is my idea, but it would have to be better than the second and first season combined. She was like, "Oh, I have, so you could do this and this and this," and I was like, "Ah, crap! Now I have to write it." But yeah, I mean, she brought just such an amazing perspective to it.
Did you learn anything about human behavior or psychology when interacting with your fellow actors and while writing the scripts?
I mean, I think the main thing I learned about it actually was just with us being in a house for 11 days. I don't know that it had much to do with like the actual story itself, more related to us living on location. Because I had done a project where myself and the cast and crew lived on location before, but we were much younger. And with this one, with us all being, adults, I don't know. It was interesting to watch the dynamics appear. Two of the people on the set actually ended up dating, and so it was very interesting to watch that happen. I don't know that there's anything tangible that I can say about it other than just like it was interesting to watch, like people watching. But yeah, it was like interesting to see friendships form, and where there was tension, and where for the people dating, where there wasn't tension, or where there was tension but a different kind.
I'm always curious about human behavior and psychology, especially from a writing perspective. You're putting yourself into your scripts, obviously, either consciously or subconsciously, and the fact that you people watch as you were just kind of lends to your creativity in terms of future projects. So I was always interested about that.
You know what? I actually do have an answer. I have a different answer. You saying that brought something up. So I, like I mentioned, play two characters, Isaac and Other Isaac. He is actually called Other Isaac in in the show. Again, he was supposed to be like a one-off character, and I was like, all right, I'll just call him the other one. And then I was like, all right, he's named Other Isaac now. One of the reasons that I love film and music and these kinds of creative storytelling is because they're a way for me to express myself through fiction. And I'm on the autism spectrum, and so communicating just in real life can be a little difficult for me sometimes. The character of Isaac, he's much cooler than me. He's much more confident than I am as a person. And the character of Other Isaac is very often confused by human behavior. And he's a little bit more rigid and obsessive. And I realize now, looking at it, that Isaac and Other Isaac are kind of just like, if you took a lot of the parts of me that are like spectrumy, that I get from being on the autism spectrum, if you took them out of me and you put them into a different character, what's left of me, I think, is Isaac, and the parts that were taken out are Other Isaac. Yeah, I think that's what I realized about human psychology, is that I just split myself in two, And I was like, what if I was just the autism side of me and then just the not autism side of me? And then what if they punched each other?
No time paradoxes there whatsoever, I'm sure. Back to the Future lied to me. I mean, Time Cop. I mean, whatever else. Right. Okay. Looking back on the difference between season 1 and 2, what did you learn about leadership and yourself when it came to that process?
Nothing. I refuse to learn ever. No, I'm
Cool.
kidding.
All right.
Um, no, I mean, so season two was a much bigger undertaking. Season one we shot in I think 11 days and then we were done. Like that was it. It all takes place up at the lake house. That's all it is. Season two takes place kind of all over the place. There are scenes at the lake house. There are scenes at a graveyard in DC. There are scenes at a second graveyard in DC. There are scenes at a library, at a house. It's all over the place. And it took us like 2 months to shoot, here and there. I think the biggest thing that I learned when it comes to being a leader is just organization. Just how to keep everything organized and running smoothly. With season one, it was easy because we were all there. And so I didn't have to worry about like, oh, is an actor going to be available for the scene? Are we going to have, enough time in location to shoot it? Because the answer was yes, we would. And the actor would be there because they were stuck there. Not literally. I wasn't like keeping them hostage. But with season two, it became a lot harder to juggle because Jack wasn't always free and the actors weren't always free. And we added two new actors, kind of two and a half. And we also were working with more complicated equipment. So we needed not just Jack to do the camera, but we would also need a first assistant camera. We would need sometimes a grip, maybe a gaffer. It became much more complicated, and so I think what season two really taught me compared to season one was how to organize a project of that scope, of that size. And it was not the easiest, and it took practice. But there are projects that I'm doing now where I'm like, okay, if I hadn't had that practice on the second season of the Sunrise House, I'd be screwing this up big time. And if I had to do it beforehand. But thankfully now I've had that practice and I've had that learning experience and come away with it much better at organizing and scheduling everything.
So, what have you done in terms of your current projects that have helped you be more organized?
I mean, I think it's just like I mean, taking the time to really sit down. I like rushed into season two a little bit, but the communication channels that I run through, I'll have a first AD now on Sunrise House season two. I didn't have a first AD. I will have a larger production team, and I will delegate a lot more tasks, and then I will just you know spreadsheets, lots and lots of spreadsheets nowadays.
Gotta work with Excel. Love those.
Exactly.
If you could outsource one mental burden of filmmaking that drained your creative bandwidth, what would it be?
That is actually a really good question. Man, I don't know. It's hard to answer because as much as some things do drain me, I love them. I love all of the aspects of filmmaking that I do. They're so fun. I mean, there are things, I already kind of outsource, I hire a first AD now because that's something that I don't love to do. If I were going to give you a cheap answer, it would be that, but I already do it. Like I already have someone else do that. I think for me, the thing that drains me the most on set, or not on set, like in filmmaking in general, is the sound effects editing. Just looking through, banks upon banks of sound effects, it can make me go insane just a little bit. And as much as I love, the sound design element of like making cool whooshy magic noises, it's like the aligning footsteps to people walking that I'm like I could be doing anything else right now. I think that's my answer. That's what I'm gonna give you is the sound effects editing, like aligning footsteps and Foley and cloth stuff. It doesn't feel as creative for me because, you know, getting to design like the sound of the orb, for example, the sound that it makes, I got to imagine something new. I have yet to be walking down the street and see a glowing red orb, so I got to take from nothing. But footsteps sound like footsteps.
Good audio design is difficult, but you notice bad audio design in films.
Oh, absolutely. A good audio designer, like a good sound effects editor, is worth their weight in gold. I'm just not it. And I can recognize that about myself. And I'll do it when I need to, when I don't have anyone else. If I was like given one person to take one job away from me and do it for my projects, that's what I would pick without a second thought.
Was there any books or films or a piece of art that changed your way about your visual storytelling? Maybe not your favorite, but one that just kind of rewired your instincts?
You know, every time anyone asks me a question about like films in the past that you've seen, I forget every movie that I've seen in my entire life. I'd have to like go through my letterbox and be like, maybe this one. I think you asked about visual storytelling, right? That is a hard one. I don't know that I can pick one. I know that's like a kind of a cop out answer, but I don't know that I can pick one. I think that every movie that I make is an amalgamation of every movie that I've seen. I am pulling inspiration from so many different places that it's hard for me to pick just one. If you said just like storytelling in general, like writing, I'd be like, all right, Shawshank Redemption off the bat. But with visual storytelling, I think that yeah, it's a combination of so many different things. It's recent, so it's like recently been having an effect on me. I can't attribute it to the Sunrise House, obviously, and it's not a movie, it's a show. But Severance, the visual storytelling in Severance is immaculate. The DP in that, she's incredible. As I shot list future projects, like since I've seen it, I can feel its influence. Like I can feel it clawing at me, getting its grubby little hands all over me. It's such a beautiful show. So yeah, that project is amazing. And then also a TV show and completely different from Severance, but The Newsroom. The way that they shot that to feel so diegetic without it actually being like a mockumentary. It's it's such a beautiful show and it really brings you into the moment. And that's something that I strive to do as a filmmaker is try and make people forget that they're watching something and that try and make them feel like they're actually there.
We always have our favorite musical scores. For me, I'm a John Williams fan, Hans Zimmer, insert, oh yeah, just insert every amazing musician and composer out there that have done TV and film, even classical, etc. Creating music for your own film is something that I could never do. It's not my wheelhouse whatsoever. But talk about your musicality when it came to season 1 and season 2, and what did you draw from to create this amazing score, or these amazing scores, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, so seasons 1 and 2 are very different in terms of the score. Season 2, the score is much bigger. I would say it's much more classical in terms of the instrumentation. Like it pulls a lot more from modern film scores. Whereas season 1, I kind of I was experimenting a little bit more. For me, music is such a powerful storytelling element, and in independent film, it's one that's consistently overlooked. I was learning piano before I had ever touched the camera in my life. And so music was really my first love, my first, storytelling element. It's a joy to get to bring it into film, and I use it on set a lot actually. When I am writing these projects like The Sunrise House or like some of my other stuff, like some of my older films like Reality or, Torrent Rising, I'll come onto them with themes already written and recorded. And I'll be able to sit the actors down and play these things for them. And it gives them a feel for the vibe of the project, the feeling of it in a way that my words I don't think ever could. Because like I said, I can struggle sometimes with communicating verbally on set. And to be able to just be like, okay, this moment here should feel like this piece of music. And to be able to just hit play on something that I had made and have the actors go, okay, I get it, and then they nail it in the next take. It's just such a beautiful feeling for me to be able to be like, okay, I used the tools I had to communicate. Yay, go me. Um, I mean, I did a show in college called One Door Over, and the main theme of that before we were on like the second episode, and people would be on set humming it.
Nice.
But before we literally hadn't gotten to the third episode, and people would be humming it. because it's really catchy. It's called the Berkshire theme. You can find it on any streaming service. But the more important part of it is that it captures the essence of the show, of the relationships between the characters. It's this kind of light, bouncy theme that also elicits a feeling of kind of bittersweet loss. Without me saying that, the actors were able to hear it and go, "Okay, yeah, no, 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 it's like this," and they would say roughly what I just said. And so on the Sunrise House, I did the exact same thing. There's this main theme that kind of circulates throughout it that I played for the actors beforehand. They were able to understand what I wanted to communicate without me actually having to say it out loud. And then just to get to go into post production, and because I have no time limit, because I'm the producer and I can, set my own schedule for it, to really be able to experiment and be like, okay, what if I just use this weird instrument here? What if I just like go and look through this like library of people, hitting a stick on a violin? What does that sound like and how can I use it? And I think that there's even one instrument that I used at one point that's a recording of like an ultrasound, like stretched out and retuned. People just make these things, and I think it's called like Piano Book.
Hmm.
They'll just make these free sample instruments, and so I would just like download them in batches and just play around. And the second season, it's again, it's much more like stereotypical Hollywood, but it is also much larger. And season two in general is much larger, and I think that's why I made that choice to go a little bit more contemporary. But season one, it's supposed to feel weird and unsettling and cramped and claustrophobic. And so there's not a lot of normal instruments, so to speak, other than piano, which of course, is my main instrument, so it's throughout everywhere. There's a lot of weirdness in it, which was so fun to do.
Pushed your creative boundaries when it came to music making. I love it.
Exactly, yeah.
Everyone has one person that inspired them on their path to where they are today. Who was that for you?
I think it was my dad. I love him dearly. He is not a creative person, not in the way that I am, at least. He has a camera, not phenomenal with it. He is kind of jealous of myself and my brother for our creative skills, but he has this positive attitude, this desire to learn and to listen to other people that I admire so much, and that I am constantly yearning to emulate in my life. He's so bright, so good at what he does and what he sets his mind to. Even at things that he is struggling to learn, he keeps going and he doesn't give up. I mean, even now he's pushing 70 and he's learning, he's getting better at guitar and learning banjo and learning to draw. It's such a joy to watch him get to still be a curious child at his age. I look at that and I'm like, man, that's what I want to be. I never want to stop learning. I never want to stop being curious. He's been so supportive of me throughout my life, not just as a person, but throughout my like creative life and creative exploration. He's been just an unbelievable fan of mine, and he's a great person to talk to. And every time I'm having a problem creatively or like logistically with my films, he's like one of the first people I'll go to. I'm like, all right, I'm having this problem. What are your ideas? Let's just talk it through. So I think he's just been a huge inspiration for me throughout my life and creatively. And I definitely would not be here, and be as far along as I am if it weren't for his help.
From a professional standpoint, you are a successful filmmaker in, of course, not only the Sunrise House, but your other endeavors in terms of the photos you sent me and your IMDb and everything else like that. So, from a professional standpoint, you are a successful person. Do you consider yourself personally successful?
These are very introspective. I like what I do. I like what I do. I get to tell stories and do creative problem solving. A lot of people when they're younger, they're like, "Oh, I want to make movies," and then they grow up and they'll find other passions. But I'm still out here and I'm making movies. And a lot of the work that I do outside of the filmmaking aspect of it is I'll do a lot of like event work. I'll bring my camera and I'll do event work with people, or I'll get to score other people's films, and I get to show up places with a camera and create beautiful images. And I often get to do it with people that I really, really care about and really enjoy and work well with. And my partner actually is also in the filmmaking sphere, and I get to do a lot of work with them they're an incredibly talented photographer. The photo right now that is my headshot on the screen was taken by them. Getting to do the stuff I love with the person that I love and with people that I love, no matter how much money I have in the bank or how nice my car is, which it's not, it's falling apart. But regardless of those things, I think that I am a successful person because I'm doing what I love with people that I care about.
The reverse of success is failure. How do you deal with your failures?
There's a long answer and a short answer to this. Not like long. The long answer is I will look back and really just analyze. I'll try to step out of myself. I'm no longer Benji. I'm no longer the person who failed or was involved in the failure. I am now an as objective as one can be third party. What went wrong? What could have been done to fix it? And as with most failures, often the blame is all over the place. I can say, okay, well, if this person hadn't done that, but also if I hadn't done something, there's always a back and forth. And so I'll try as hard as I can to take a step back and just look at everything that went wrong, what could have been prevented, what could have been changed, what could I have done differently, how could I have helped someone else do something differently. And then the short answer is I take a day to grieve, I get up and I say, what's next? And I move on. Can't get down in the reeds.
It's the spiral.
Exactly.
That's why we have coffee and something stronger.
Exactly. Exactly.
The young generation is looking at your work and they're becoming inspired to be creative in their own way, whether it's as a filmmaker or something else along the lines. Maybe you're inspiring them down that path. How can they inspire the generation that follows them?
I have been told in the past that I have a superpower. And that superpower is I am able to get people excited about my projects. And I think that that's how I inspire people is that I'm personally so excited about my projects that they then in turn get excited. And whether or not my projects turn out amazing, I look back at the Sunrise House season 1 even after this remaster and I'm like, man, I could list, you know, a hundred things that I wish I had done differently. But I'm still so excited about it because it's so cool. I got to take 6 of my friends and go up and live in a house and just make this. And I think that that's how the next generation can inspire the one after them and the one after them and the one after them is be excited about the work that you're doing, about the stories that you're telling. Realize that it is such a privilege to get to go out and be creative for a profession and bring people onto these stories and onto these productions and let them be excited. I've been on productions where I'm like, when I was younger, where I'm like, oh my God, I'm on a film set. That's so cool. And people are like, yeah, whatever, buddy, just do your job. I was like, okay, geez, my bad. You guys are working with like an Ari Alexa, and I'm not allowed to be excited over here as a PA. And so when people, new people come onto my sets and they're like, yo, can I ask you like questions about your camera and about how you do all of this? I'm like, of course you can. Let's talk about it because it's cool. And I think that that's the way to keep people excited is to stay excited, to just enjoy the work that you do. I was on a music video this past Thursday where I got to set up a menace arm, which for anyone watching who doesn't know, it's this like giant boom arm rig for a light, so you can have like the stand off to the side and the light comes out like 15 feet, up in the air. And I'd never gotten to do that. One of the PA was laughing at me, like endearingly laughing at me because I was like jumping up and down, clapping. I was like, "This is so cool! I've never gotten to do this before." And I've been making films, whether professionally or not, for like 10 years now, and I'm still like jumping up and down in excitement at getting to do a new thing. And I hope that my PA saw that and was like, "Wow, he really loves his craft. This is really cool. I want to keep doing this." And I hope that then my PA, I hope that she does that on one of her sets, and when she's directing, and another PA sees that and is like, wow, that's really cool. She really loves this craft. I want to keep doing this, and it passes down.
Last question is this before we wrap up the interview, and I really appreciate your time here, Benjamin.
Oh my God, I appreciate you. It's my pleasure.
If your life was a film, what would its title be? And what would its soundtrack be?
Okay, so title is hard. Soundtrack is the albums "Lean Into Life," USA, and "The Yips" by Petey. Petey. title would be Oops, I Started Another Project. I just can't stop doing them.
As long as you finish it, that's the main thing.
Yep, totally.
Yeah,
No, I used to be very bad about that, but nowadays I actually do finish my projects.
that's good. Well, Benjamin, I hate to say it, but that ends this particular episode of Two Geeks Talking. I want to thank you so much for being on the show.
Kurt, thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure, and I hope I get to come back someday.
Oh, you're definitely always welcome back for sure. Before I let you go, though, where can we find you? How can we support you? Where can we find season 1 and 2 of The Sunrise House and anything else you'd like to promote?
Absolutely. You can find season 1 of The Sunrise House on my company's website at secondworldfps.com. That's FPS like frames per second or film photography and sound. Season 1 is out for free along with many of my other projects. You can find season 2 on my hard drive and nowhere else. I am still in visual effects for it. It's a challenge. Yeah, you can find my work there. You can find me on social media at Benjamin Kapit Official on Instagram and TikTok. You can find my website, benjaminkapit.com. And then you can find my music on pretty much any streaming service, either just Benjamin Kapit or my like vocal music that I do is under the name Dreamers Club. And that's where I am. I'm all over the place.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, like I said, that ends this particular episode, Two Geeks Talk. You can, of course, find this interview and 1,200 plus others on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TGT Media. The podcast, well, search it on wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, iTunes, whatever else. There's like 50 million out there. Just search Two Geeks Talking, TWO Geeks Talking. Don't put the number 2, not what you want to go to. And as I say every week, everyone has a story to tell. It's up to me to help bring that out. Thanks for listening and watching on Two Geeks Talking.